On these Lifan X-Pect motorcycles, it's a common upgrade to switch the front sprocket from the factory 15 teeth to one with 17 teeth. I'll show you how to do it, and make sure to watch until the end because I'll also tell you what changing the sprocket does and why I'm going back to the original. This is actually a pretty easy job. You need a basic set of sockets and wrenches. A small torque wrench is also not a bad idea. And of course, you will need the sprocket. This is a JT one I got on Amazon. I'll put links down below to the sprocket and some budget tools I like. The very first thing to do is loosen this 21mm rear axle nut and these 13mm nuts on the chain adjustment, and they are on both sides. It's really a lot easier if you have two 13mm wrenches. The next step for me is putting the bike on this motorcycle lift. I got this one on Amazon. I'll put some links down below. These are affordable and super handy. You don't have to buy one of these, but they just make working on motorcycles a lot easier. Next, loosen the pinch bolt on the shifter. I have upgraded to this Tusk one with a folding tip. Really nice upgrade, not that expensive. I'll put a link down below. The sprocket is under this cover, so remove the two 8mm fasteners holding it in place. Then you can remove the cover. In my case, turning the rear wheel a little bit helps get it off. Hopefully yours does not look like this. You can see the last time I was riding, I went through a really muddy, grassy area. So I'll just clean all of this out of here. This little plate holds the sprocket on. You need to remove these two 10mm bolts. To make it easier, I put the shifter back on and shifted it into gear. To get this plate off, you have to rotate it so the splines line up and you can pull it off. Here is where loosening the rear wheel comes into play. You can pull it forward, get extra slack in the chain, and that makes the rest of this easier. Now I will pull the sprocket off. There it is. Here's my factory sprocket that I'm reinstalling. I'll get it in the chain here, line up the splines, and push it on. One thing that is not great about these bikes is you can't really find many torque specs. There are some in the manual, but not for this. These are just little M6 fasteners, so a typical torque spec for these would only be like 6 to 8 pound-feet. So I'll be tightening these to right about 7 pound-feet. Once that is tight, put the cover back in place. These are also M6 fasteners and they're going into aluminum. So again, don't go wild. I'm only gonna do about 6 to 7 pound-feet. Now reinstall the shifter. Make sure to get it lined up where you are able to shift both up and down. That seems right. Then I'll install the screw. The rest of this is just a basic chain adjustment. You will use the nuts here and everything to get the chain tension correct. Use the markings on the adjusters and the rear swing arm to make sure the axle is even on both sides. Then tighten it up. There is a torque spec in the manual for this nut. It is 80 Newton meters or about 60 foot-pounds. So why even do this job? Well, going up to 17 teeth is basically trading low-end torque for more top-end performance. You don't accelerate as quickly after the change, but you do get a higher top speed. When you're driving around town, this change totally makes sense. There's a lot less shifting and stop-and-go driving, and there's still plenty of acceleration for driving on the street. I did pick up a few miles per hour at the top end, but it's still on this bike a struggle to hit 70. The problem is that I do a decent amount of mixed and off-road riding, and the loss of low-end torque really hurt. You can't power through things like you can with the factory sprocket, and you can't tractor along at low speeds. I basically lost more off-road than I gained in on-road performance. So if your main focus is on-road riding, then I think the 17-tooth sprocket does make sense, but I went back to the factory 15-tooth. However, this 16-tooth sprocket just arrived in the mail, so I'm interested to try this out and see if it's a good middle ground. So what do you guys think of this job? Let me know in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.